Shalom, welcome to our Sukkah. It is Erev Shabbat, the sun is going down, the breeze is still up. We had a little rain last night, the first rain of the year, which was a blessing, I think, I hope. Maybe not for everybody, but we are here at the Shabbat Sukkah, is a very special union of power. Because the idea of Shabbat, God gave a command in the Torah and said, keep Shabbat. Now that's like a father telling you to do something. It's coming from his internal thinking and going into your software. Think of the commands of the Torah as commands of software. The more commands you get right, the better the software runs. Right? So every command in the Torah is God's will, it's his desire. Rabbi Nachman calls them his advices. If you want to get it right, if you want to get it good, then follow my commands, because he wrote the software. Very nice. Let's not kill this computer metaphor too much, but it helps. Okay, it helps us understand, and that's okay. Cybernetics is all about this, how the computer and the human mind parallel each other. Anyways. So, when God gives the command to keep Shabbat, it's a piece of software that pre-existed creation. And it came out in the beginning. Even people, Avraham Avinu kept Shabbat before the command was given at Mount Sinai. Now, how did that happen? Except for his soul was already connected at the place in heaven that pre-existed the giving of the Torah. Because the Torah was already written. The software was already on the shelf. And Avraham Avinu kind of snuck in one night and through his spiritual purity, he was able to download, to receive what God wanted us to do before he even told us. Now, what is that? If you do something before God tells you, well, in psychology, that's called mind reading. Are you reading God's mind when you anticipate his will? That's outrageous. I'm not even sure I would say that in the synagogue here. But I'm just following the logical pattern of the words. If you're Avraham Avinu and you keep Shabbat before Shabbat is given, then you're tapped into the system before the system even becomes an international document for the whole world to learn from. I remember in graduate school, one of the professors said, "You can't read minds." And she looked right over at me. And I was looking at her and she was looking at me, and I know what she was thinking. She was thinking, "Oh, you're a super orthodox with your big beard. Oh, you must believe in mind reading." Because that's part of the ethos of going to a rabbi or a tzaddik, is that he's so pure. Rabbi Nachman says, if your mind is pure, it's natural that you could read other people's minds. If your mind and heart is pure. Because we're giving over who we are all the time. We are emanating ourselves in the level of eyesight, speech, our bodies, and our thoughts. And so if a person's mind is pure, he can naturally pick up other people's thoughts. If a person's mind is pure and he's attached to God, he'll pick up God's thoughts. Because we live on an integrated network of life. It's the kind of thing you have to sit quietly and think about. I bless you with that ability to sit quietly and think, because the world doesn't want you to do that. The big Pharaoh, the big Pharaoh somewhere in hell, he doesn't want us to sit quietly and think. And those, I think, probably his workers are the people who don't want you to have a day off work and have you an hour off for lunch. And, well, I think I better not go too far in this direction. Because you don't need to enslave somebody physically if you enslave their mind and their ability to make decisions. Okay, so now we're in Sukkot. Sukkah is this structure. Let's see if we can get a pan here. Whoop, okay, that's the one way. See, there's the schach above. You see our sukkah this way. A little rolling the camera. There's a thumb. And our sukkah is we're blessed to have some room out here. And it's not like a little box in the parking lot, It's our back porch turned into a sukkah. So we feel the breadth, the expanse of Israel. We can see 50 miles to the ocean. Well, it's actually less than 50, but the point we're talking about here on the Sukkah is that it's a time when God blesses us with what are called in Kabbalah the makifim. And the makifim literally means the surrounding lights. It's your halo. Now, Rabbi Nachman defines for us that halo. Those are the thoughts you have yet to think. Those are the ideas that you have yet to integrate into your own software. I remember when I didn't believe in keeping Shabbat. I remember when I didn't believe in eating kosher. Those thoughts had not yet entered. They'd entered my mind because other people did it, but they never entered my mind as something I would actually do. Why would I do that? Until I had enough Taco Bell and my stomach said, you better stop. In other words, there are ideas surrounding our mind, and each person at their own level. If you're an astrophysicist, then your mind is filled with a lot of ideas. And you've comprehended a lot of concepts that no one will ever run across in their whole life. And if you're a simple truck driver rolling down Highway 10, and trying to get to LA, maybe you don't think about, the laws of thermodynamics or the quantum mechanics of the horizon of a black hole. Well, if it wasn't for Google, I wouldn't either, but, keep sending me these science feeds, We're going to do a whole series on science and Kabbalah very soon, God willing. And because there's so many parallel ideas that you start to see the integration of nature and spirituality. They're not really separate the way we experience them. We cause a separation in the physical and the spiritual. But, if we step back from ourselves we suddenly see that they're very, very close and intermeshed. Okay, but besides the intermeshing of science and Kabbalah, the Sukkah is the place where we build these transcendent intellects, these makifim, these surrounding thoughts. So just by sitting in the Sukkah and being quiet and meditating or breathing or praying or whatever we do in the Sukkah, we open our mind to receive those new thoughts. Just like Avraham Avinu's mind was open to receiving the concept of Shabbat before God ever commanded the concept of Shabbat. And when you receive the new intellect because you made a sukkah, and because the schach represents those clouds of glory that followed the Jews around in the desert, well, they weren't just like, side effects from, the Hollywood movie department over there for side effects. The transcendent intellect was the lights of the Shekhinah following the Jews around, and when anybody's mind was open, they got a new idea. So our work is to open our minds, to open our faith, and to open our ability to receive. And like a lot of people say, the first thing I do is got to get me out of the way of me, and then maybe I can receive something greater. So the sukkah is built for this, it's designed for this. We make blessings here, we have meals here, we pray and learn here. Some people even sleep in the sukkah. Depends on the storm winds. My son just walked in. He's a trooper, Abba bails at the first raindrop. But nonetheless, the sukkah is actually providing us with the chance. It's providing us with the chance to receive new mind power, new focus, new interests, new expansion of ideas that I didn't understand before. And, as we said in the title, If your mind is pure and your heart is pure, you can pick up other people's thoughts very easily. They'll come to you without you even trying. It's not something you try. I'm going to read your mind, you know. Like that's like 1950s movies, you know. It's not like that. It's more like just being centered and still and quiet and empty and open, and all of a sudden ideas will enter you. Thoughts will enter you. Inspiration will enter you, and maybe even some negative things. Someone walks in the sukkah and suddenly you think about something that you haven't thought of at all or ever or in 20 years. They might be carrying a trace of that in their thinking, and it jumps over into yours because we are magnets to each other. We have this spiritual magnetism of the human soul. And this all goes back to the structure of Kabbalah when you learn about the beginning, that God created the whole world in a vacuum. Now what happens in a vacuum? Anything that's in the vacuum gets pulled when the vacuum is violated. In other words, a window is open in the vacuum, everything gets sucked out of the vacuum. Now, all of creation was built in the vacuum, however. And the vacuum, so to speak, is the root of creation that's pulling us all back to God. You know, like you pull on the pump to open up, to fill up your bicycle tire, you create a vacuum, or on a syringe. I don't like talking about syringes, it's too much in the news, right? You pull the bicycle pump back, you create a vacuum. It pulls everything in the air with it. That's kind of a little bit about the way God creates creation from the beginning. He created the vacuum, and then he pulls and he sends everything out there, all the lights and all the powers that slowly through the down chaining of the world, we call Hishtalshalut Olamot, they come down and out into the physical realm, but they're still attached to the source. They're still attached to the beginning. That's us, folks. We're being pulled to God even if we don't want to. And some people are so stubborn, God says, okay, it looks like you got to take another side trip, get another van and go back to California and try that again. You know, people are still doing it. You know, I did it in my 20s before I got married and had kids because I realized there's no way I can cross America in a van with wife and kids. But some people try, you know, it's another story. But the point really is that God is pulling on us. He's pulling on our soul because we're drawn from Him. Okay? And with that comes these transcendent intellect, these new thoughts. The closer we get to Him, the more our mind is renewed. New ideas are constantly entering. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to be a Torah scholar. You can be a scientist. You can be a mathematician. You can be a businessman. You can be an athlete. Whatever you are, you become better at it with that divine help, with that new insight. And when you think better, you feel better. And when you feel better, well, you make the right choices and you act better. And you're better at everything you do. Now, ask any of the great CEOs that run corporations or the great athletes. They sit and meditate before they play or before they go to the boardroom. Because they need to get so centered that they can come to the real inspiration of the moment that they need to do what they need to do, which is whether it's, you know, make 5 3-pointers in a row or invest in the right company. So, you know, the Sukkah is the place that we get an experience of this for a week. And every year I make these little plans to go here or go there, go to the beach, go to Kever Rachel or something, and all I end up doing is staying in the Sukkah. And the miracle, that's not the miracle, folks. The miracle is that my wife is happy staying home, you know. So the Sukkah is this place where you just sit and you have a good time and you be with people and you be with yourself and you be with the holy sages. You know, when you open up a book, you're not just opening up a book, you're allowing the mind of the author to enter your mind. Now, you know, that's one of the reasons why I never wanted to learn Mein Kampf. I didn't want that guy's mind in my mind. And when you read someone's book, you want to make sure that person's on a good level, because you're taking his mind into your mind. And that's kind of what happens in the Sukkah as well. We're trying to get some divine intellect here to enter our own mind. And then everything works better. So you should be blessed with that experience, because it's easy to sit and talk about it. If I hadn't had the experiences, I wouldn't have the chutzpah to tell you. If I hadn't sat and written for hours in the Sukkah and not be able to move because there was something inspiring hitting me at the time, I wouldn't have the chutzpah to tell you about it. But since it happened to me, I said, this is something I got to share. This is something that can make everybody's life better. And that's why the Sukkah is a mitzvah also for the nations to come to Israel and come to Jerusalem and to visit the presence of God at the Holy Temple. And this is where we're all being pulled, whether we want to or not. So let's stop fighting the flow and join the wave. And we'll all be coming home soon, God willing, to the greatest redemption of all. And that's what we're all really looking for. So God bless you all. Have a great Shabbat, Sukkah, Sameach, and we should be around on Sunday. And then we'll be moving into Simchas Torah, the festival of not the giving of the Torah, but the receiving. Giving is when we celebrate God gave us the Torah. Receiving the Torah is the festival where the Torah enters you, from the top of your head to the tippy tip of your toes. So God bless you all, and that makes you want to dance. So that we'll be doing that. We'll be working towards that next week, and bless you all with a wonderful Shabbat, a time of peace. Sit in the Sukkah on Shabbat, and I promise you, be quiet, don't answer your phone. You will be inspired. You will receive a new idea, a new spark, a new shine, and it makes it all worthwhile. Shabbat Shalom. Chag Sameach.